Hello. This video lecture will concern formal language and how you can improve yours. We will describe 3 different types of formal texts: a review, an article, and a report. We will end by speaking generally about formal text and how you should write them. To begin with, a review should have a clear introduction summarizing what a review will be about. You should as well divide your review into paragraphs and have an introduction and a conclusion for every item being reviewed. You should give a clear and concise description of the thing you are reviewing as to not lose your reader's attention. You should conclude by giving your opinions and recommendations in the last paragraph. A review can include both criticism and praise, which is important to know, so you don't have to choose either one of these. And also it's important to know that a review is personal, and therefore you can use personal pronouns as I, you, or them, which you can't use in other formal text. Moreover, an article should be written with a title that is interesting and attract the reader's attention, a so-called selling title. It should be structuralized, it should have a red thread keeping to the subject at hand, as to not make the reader feel as you're just talking about irrelevant subjects. You should have a new paragraph for every change of focus, as well as start the article by giving the reader an idea what you will talk about and having it formulated in such a way to attract the reader's attention. Moreover, you should ask interactive questions which demands the reader to take a side, which will in turn make them feel more involved, thereby making it a more interesting read. You should, moreover, appeal to the reader's imagination to further absorb them in the subject. You should end the text with a stunning conclusion to sum up the content of your article. In the CAA criteria, it's said that you should have an informal and lively tone, but that is from the presumption that the article will be read by young adults. But our tip is that you adapt your language to the magazine's reader, as every magazine doesn't really focuses on young adults, but have other groups that it attracts and have as readers.
When you are writing a report, you should divide it into different sections, and each section should have its own headline that's adapted to the content of that section. So, for example, if you're writing how students reacted to a special thing that you're reporting about, that section should have the headline called "How the students reacted" or "The students' reaction." You should also have a clear introduction and conclusion, which have the headlines introduction and conclusion, so it's clear and concise. The sentences in the report should also be clear and concise, no mucking about, just write what you're supposed to be writing. Unlike the article or the review, it's very important that the report have a formal style of language. That means no personal pronouns, and that you should avoid contractions, slang and abbreviations. So no I, me or we or you, and no don't, shouldn't, and things like that. Avoid all that to keep it in a formal tone. Now, when you are writing generally in formal language, you should use appropriate linking words. That's very important to keep the text flowing and to keep a good language and good style. It's also important that you use appropriate phrases to make recommendations and suggestions, if it's appropriate in that type of text. Abbreviations should be avoided, and so should slang and contractions. So as long as contractions, those are the you normally use like don't and doesn't and shouldn't, but you shouldn't use these. You should instead write does not, do not, and should not. This is very important, since the other style of writing gives a more informal feel in the text. What also should be avoided in formal text is personal pronouns. This is very important, so no I, we, you, he or she. Instead you can use the word one. One should not be writing informal when one is supposed to write formal. So, that's all for us. Thank you and good night.